Guys, we have spent a lot of time with this shotgun, and for good reason. It's the first of its kind. Normally, Festival of the Lost weapons are just a little something that Bungie throws our way, but Arcane Embrace here is truly a unique shotgun. And in this sandbox, with artifact mods like anti-barrier shotgun, we're living in a world right now where shotguns are viable, even in in-game PvE. Hell, I was using Accuracy the other day in my Grandmaster runs. But what makes Arcane Embrace special is that it's a heavy burst shotgun. That's right, guys. A burst fire slug shotgun. It deals arc damage, it is a sexy weapon, and it is attainable via focusing from either Eva Vivante or as an RNG drop from Haunted Sectors. You can check out our guide. We cover on how to farm up Festival of the Lost this year. And yes, Bungie has fixed the roles, meaning all the old Festival of the Lost weapons are finally dropping with their new trait combinations. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the shotgun, breaking it down in both PvE and inside of PvP. This is a very unique weapon, guys. And yes, we do have a damage test video that's probably already out by now, which honestly blew me away because across the board, shotguns are actually way better than I thought they were inside of PvE. Now, looking at the frame first, the Heavy-Burst frame reads, fires a hard-hitting 2-round burst, slightly reduces flinching from incoming fire while aiming. And let me just say, when you use this weapon, that's going to be the first thing you notice is just how stable this weapon is. Despite it being a 2-round burst pulse rifle shotgun, think of things like Nullify or Corrasion. Arcane Embrace here is incredibly stable, incredibly manageable, and landing those back-to-back consecutive critical shots, in my opinion, is very easy if you can aim. Now look at its gameplay. I'm probably missing a lot of shots. Now again, the description doesn't clarify whether or not this is a pellet shotgun or a slug shotgun, but just so you know, it is in fact a slug shotgun. We're not shooting pellets here, which makes it very ideal in DPS scenarios, as pellet shotguns actually have pretty good DPS. Problem is, the moment you start getting outside of range, you start to get too much spread. Not all your shots land as crits, and ultimately, damage really starts to fall off. Slug shotguns evades that by being a one single shot that can be delivered straight to the dome for that perfect precision hit. Start with those right now. In our third column, we have Air Trigger, 4 times the charm. Grave Robber, which by the way, Grave Robber is substantially better than Grave Robber of old. Lone Wolf, Slideshot, Dual Loader, and Threat Detector. In our fourth column, we have Closing Time, Desperado, Precision Instrument, Surrounded, Tap the Trigger, and Voltshot. Now there is a lot of strong perks that are present here, some of which are actually more ideal for a burst fire shotgun. But before we go any further, I do want to bring up Trench Barrel on this weapon. See, Trench Barrel isn't actually listed here, and we talked about this in our guide. The curator role that's given to you during the quest for Festival of the Lost has Trench Barrel. However, this is a bugged role. Trench Barrel is not supposed to be on this weapon, and we actually mentioned that if you wanted to keep Trench Barrel, that you do not need to get rid of this role, as this is the only role you're going to get with Trench Barrel. Not sure if Bungie's going to come in and get rid of that perk. It's very possible that that dual loader Trench Barrel role may convert to something else, but for the time being, at least at the time I'm making this video, Trench Barrel is a thing. Now, the reason why I believe Trench Barrel is going to be addressed on the shotgun is because it's actually working a little too good. You see, after successfully landing a melee hit, your weapon gains increased damage, handling, and reload speed for a short duration, or until 3 shots are fired. Now, this provides a 50% increase to the shotgun over the next 3 shots within 5 seconds normally. Now, I say normally because Trench Barrel on Arcane Embrace is able to keep that 50% extra damage for the full 5 seconds, regardless of the shots that you fire. You can see weapons like Accuracy and Perfect Paradox that have Trench Barrel. You proc it, and then you have 3 shots that you can fire, and then the buff goes away. But on Arcane Embrace, no matter how many shots we fire, we're able to keep the buff, at least over that 5-second duration. And this damage is substantial. Where at base, we were doing 22,805 damage per shot. With Trench Barrel, this jumps up to 34,208 damage per shot. Now, on top of that, if you use things like Facet of Dawn, where landing powerful melee hits makes you radiant, you can further increase your damage, which of course synergizes here, cranking up our damage to 42,760 damage per shot. It's a massive damage buff overall, but I'm not sure this is going to be a thing Bungie is going to allow. Chances are Bungie will address this trait and remove it, considering not only is it not supposed to be on this weapon, but also because it's proccing for way too long. At the same time, I kind of scratch my head and wonder if we could just kind of keep this version of Trench Barrel and just make it a constant across the board. And we'll be touching on DPS a little more later. Now, moving back to the perks that can drop on this weapon. Some of the traits that really jump out to me include things like 4 times the charm, a great perk especially on this burst fire shotgun, where rapidly landing precision hits will return 2 rounds to the magazine. Now, the beautiful thing on this heavy frame archetype is that you can score those 4 precision hits very easily. This will refill 2 ammo to the magazine from thin air, and really it's the go-to perk for boss damage, sustainable damage. It allows you to keep doing damage for longer without needing to reload. Considering our mag size here with the mag perk is 14, and we're shooting 2 shots each time. You can see how easily you could sit here and fire from start to finish in a given damage phase. At base, you're able to proc 4 times the charm, 4 times in just 1 magazine. That's 24 shots. Now you can slap on things like back-a-mag for those extra 2 shots. Now you're sitting at 16 rounds, adding a little more forgiveness just in case one of your shots isn't a precision hit. Now if we take our base damage of 22,805 damage per shot, if we land all crits, our 1 mag total is 547,320 damage. And something to keep in mind, guys, even after this, look how much ammo you will have left. The total damage on this archetype is extremely impressive, and 4 times the charm is a very strong perk overall with the enhanced version, extending that time between precision hits from 2 to 3 seconds. Next up, we have Grave Robber. This is a perk we brought up earlier. Bungie made a change where melee final blows or dealing damage with a charged melee reloads his weapon's magazine from reserves. It's a perk that we've actually been leaning more into, especially on weapons like Crown and Duolog, which you can get with Grave Robber. And if you're rocking melees like Arcane Needle, that attacks on things like Unraveling rounds, this beautifully synergizes with your Grave Robber perk. Now, similar to 4 times the charm, what makes this perk so strong is that you're bypassing reloading. Just as long as you're landing that melee, interlooping it into your damage, you'll be able to maintain consistent damage with no hiccups. Now, I will say with a max size of 14, reloading 1 pellet at a time kinda sucks. We're talking 7.5 seconds to fully reload this weapon from empty, which is atrocious, which is why Grave Robber is so nice here. The enhanced version, not really necessary, grants +5 handling, so feel free to save yourself an Ascendant Alloy. Now, another perk that's also present here, and one we're going to be looking at inside of PvP, is Slideshot. Slideshot, in my opinion, is the better version of Slideways. I know Slideways actually just got a buff, but Slideshot states that sliding partially reloads his weapon's magazine and temporarily boosts range and stability. Now, inside of PvP, the range part is what we really like. What I really like about it is the cooldown on this is very small, meaning you can pretty much proc Slideshot almost back to back. Now, for Arcane Embrace, this reloads 4 shots per slide, which is pretty massive. Again, bypassing the need for that traditional reload. On top of that, it grants +20 range, +20 stability. Not something needed for PvE, but definitely something we appreciate inside of PvP, with the enhanced versions of Slideshot going even further to +22 range and +22 stability. Now, lastly, in column 3, we have Dual Loader. Now, back in the day, Dual Loader just tanked our reload speed. Yes, you have the ability to reload an additional shot at a time, but the reload speed took twice as long. Bungie doesn't do that anymore. Dual Loader has no negative drawbacks, meaning you'll be loading 2 shots at a time. Therefore, instead of 7.5 seconds at base to fully reload your mag, we're looking at roughly 4 seconds. Now, what's even better is the enhanced version of Dual Loader. This reloads an extra bullets, that being 3 bullets at a time. This cuts our reload down even further to 2.5 seconds. This is a very good perk, guys. And if you're using Arcane Embrace as more of an all-purpose weapon, this is a top pick in that 3rd column. Now, on to our 4th column. First, we have Desperado. Yes, you heard that right. Desperado is on a shotgun. Bungie getting wild out here. Next thing you know, we're gonna have Magnificent Howl on a rocket launcher. Don't ask me how that's gonna work. The perk reads that reloading after a precision final blow increases your rate of fire. Now, this reduces the firing delay by 30% after reloading within 5.2 seconds of a precision kill, which lasts for 6 seconds. Now, this one does stand out more as a meme or fun pick, a blow-die load pick. Yes, it does increase your DPS output over its base, but you also are losing out on an outright damage perk. I do like the idea of using Desperado on the shotgun, especially enhanced Desperado. We get that buff duration up to 7 seconds. I like the idea of chunking a champion down with that increase in rate of fire. Next is the perk, which I actually like the most here, Precision Instruments. Now, this has always been a pretty good perk, but it's especially good on this shotgun. This perk reads that dealing sustained damage increases precision damage. Landing any kind of hit with this weapon on a target grants a stack of precision instruments, which lasts for 1.25 seconds. Now, this stacks up to 6 times, with each stack granting increased precision damage. Now, if you miss a shot at all, this will remove all of your stacks. Now, the base version of this trait times 1 is 4.17%, 2 is 8.33%, so on and so forth. Times 6, you cap out at 25%. Now, the enhanced version actually is better. We're talking 5% per stack, with times 6 giving you 30% increase in damage. Now, the reason why Precision Instrument is so good on Arcane Embrace is that each burst counts for 2, considering you're literally shooting 2 shots at a time. Kind of like Warden's Law, that entire archetype, and how it works with Lucky Pants. You're able to reach those maximum stacks very quickly. Now, not that long ago, Bungie recently nerfed Precision Instruments on burst fire linears, because they would actually build up those stacks of Precision Instruments insanely fast. Luckily, though, that's not the case here for Arcane. You're able to reach those max stacks in just 3 bursts. And at max stacks, with enhanced Precision Instruments, this brings our critical damage to 29,647 damage per shot, for a total of 59,294 damage per burst. This is a massive damage increase. And with Bungie probably going to remove Trench Barrel from Arcane Embrace, Precision Instruments is going to be my top pick for dealing damage. Now moving on to another strong damage dealing perk. We have Surrounded. The weapon gains bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity. Now this has always been a strong perk, but very situational. You have to be within 15 meters of 3 enemies. Now in doing so, you net yourself a hell of a buff. We're talking 40% increase in damage. Now the buff will linger for like a second and a half if one of those enemies step outside of that 15-meter range, but this is definitely a perk that hurts the soul when you see it unproc. Now the enhanced version of Surrounded is even more damage. This goes up further to a whopping 47%. Now the reason why Surrounded may be something you could pull off on Arcane is, well, because it's a shotgun. You're already going to be in your enemy's face, so that's already 1 enemy down. 2 more, boom, there you go, Surrounded is procced. And normally I wouldn't say go out of your way to proc a perk this difficult to proc, but considering we're talking 47% more damage, that's hot. This is taking our damage up to 33,527 per shot for a total of 67,054 damage per burst. It's a great perk here on the shotgun, guys. It's a perk I like on things like Super Cluster, and it works well for Arcane's Embrace. Now lastly, Voltshot is also present on this weapon. Considering that this is an arc weapon, it reads that reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges the weapon for a short period of time, causing it to jolt on its next hit. So when you finish a reload within 5.3 seconds of landing a kill, this will grant you Voltshot for 7 seconds, with the enhanced version granting you Voltshot for 8 seconds. Now while Voltshot is active, your next weapon hit will apply jolt to that target, will then consume the buff, and then of course if you continue to just lay on the trigger and hit that target you applied Voltshot to, that will send out even more jolts, dealing more sustained damage and AoE damage. Now Voltshot is a great perk, especially on ad clearing weapons. Keep in mind though, Voltshot does not proc with any reloading bypass perks. It needs to be an actual reload, so things like Grave Robber won't proc it, and the same applies to Desperado. Now before we talk about the god roll for this weapon, we need to also talk about the origin trait that's present on all of these spooky weapons, that being Search Party. The weapon is granted faster aim down sight speed and movement speed while aiming down sights when no allies are nearby. Not really a perk you need here, especially in PvE. Essentially, if no allies are within 15 meters, this grants you a 10% decrease to ADS movement speed penalty and an 8.5 times ADS animation multiplier. Again, more useful for PvP, not really something you're going to care about inside of PvE. Now let's talk god roll recommendations. We're going to start with PvE, guys. First up, an honorable mention is of course that static roll from EVO, that dual loader trench barrel option. Until Bungie addresses that is a very good option. My next god roll recommendation would be 4 times paired with either Precision Instruments or Surrounded. And really both are great picks, but again, Surrounded is more situational. Precision Instrument is something you can utilize in literally every scenario. And with it being a burst fire shotgun, it's much faster here to reach those max stacks of Precision Instruments. Now, when we did damage testing, you see where Precision Instrument is, and then you also see where Surrounded is. Surrounded clearly is better. And there are times in the game where you can proc Surrounded. I remember everybody was dogging on Surrounded. Then turns out in Warlord's Ruin, one of the best grenade launchers you could use was Caraxes, which you can roll out with Surrounded. It was very solid, as that's such an easy perk to keep up when you're playing solo. As far as the best traits though, the pair with either Surrounded or Precision Instruments, 4 times a charm is really good. Grave Robber also really good. Dual loader is something that you don't want to overlook either, especially the enhanced version of dual loader, considering you're going to be reloading 3 shots at a time. And if you do want to rock a Voltshot roll, I would definitely suggest using dual loader with Voltshot, as that's your best bang for your buck. Now, as far as the other perks, mag perk, barrel perk, really you just want to use anything that pumps up that magazine just slightly more. A pendant mag gets the job done, giving +2 to our mag size. Tag mag also gives us +2 magazine, while simultaneously giving us +10 reload and +5 stability. I'll say mag perks like extended mag really aren't necessary because you're going to be running into that ceiling anyways. It's still only going to be +2 to your mag, and you're just hurting your reload speed for no reason. As far as barrel perk goes, I leave that up to you. Overall, guys, this is a very solid shotgun inside of PvP. It surprised me, and in comparison to all of our other shotguns, it beat out many other legendary shotguns, even the likes of Super Cluster. So again, if you get the chance, check out our damage test video. We compared all types of shotguns from Duality to Fourth Horseman to Arcane Embrace, and the results were actually incredibly surprising. What I will say for this shotgun though, for my PvE players, it's definitely worth getting, and I'm even more excited to see what Bungie adds in the future to this archetype. Now, let's talk PvP. PvP, this shotgun is not going to be one people want to use. Yes, you do spawn in with 2 shots. However, you're going to need both those shots to get a kill. I know, this was kind of a double take for me because I ran inside of Crucible, landed a precision hit, and then realized I didn't kill the guy. Now, the 2-tap requires one of your shots to be a crit, and the other shot to either be another crit or a body shot. You cannot get the kill from just 2 body shots alone. It has the ability to kill at 11 meters of range, range at base in 1 crit, 1 body. If we even included things like precision instrument, which increases our damage just slightly, this tacks on like an extra half a meter. Closing time is also present on this weapon. That's a new trait, which improves range, accuracy, and handling as the magazine gets lower. This also allows you to get the kill at 11.5 meters in 1 crit, 1 body. But just comparing this to say something like Heritage, which has 78 range at base, you're able to one-tap easily at 11 meters. The difference is that traditional slugs, in my opinion, are easier to land that precision shot versus what you have to do here with Arcane Embrace. You gotta land 2. Yes, one of those shots is a body shot, but one of those have to be a crit. And in the world of Destiny's PvP, where Guardians are literally flying all over the place, it's pretty easy to miss a shot. You see, when I play with a slug shotgun, I'm looking to lock in, land that precision shot just outside of pellet range, just enough to win out in those duels against other shotguns. That's why we use slug shotguns, to beat other shotguns. In my opinion, you're not going to be beating slug shotguns or even precision shotguns with this archetype. This heavy burst frame, guys, I'm just saying, seems to be catered more toward PvE, and I'm okay with that. So for my PvP players, I really wouldn't consider this. And I know you're probably looking at things like tap the trigger, slide shot being a combo. Some of you are probably looking at swashbuckler. Maybe you can go in, get the melee kill off, do easy cleanup with swashbuckler ×5. In my opinion, it's too much work. So for the time being, Arcane's Embrace, guys, fantastic weapon for PvE. And for my PvP players, look elsewhere. So guys, that is our review for this shotgun. Let me know in the comments below if we missed anything. We'll be reviewing some of the other weapons as well, including the new Grandmaster Nightfall weapon this week, the Stasis Glaive Rake Angle. So be looking out for those. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.